Look, I hear the echoes of what frozen be will always remain forever. I hear the echoes of what frozen be will always remain forever. Those are the words that came to me this morning after I woke up, and I was looking for my tools because I had a suction cup. You could pick up a refrigerator with that thing. And I need it. I don't know where it is. Probably was stolen from me. Just like in my head, I heard, you're gonna lose everything. Except it went like this. Everything is gonna be taken from you. And I wondered how. Through natural catastrophe? I better move out of Florida. Because Florida is going to be going underwater. It's going to be separated from the United States by a big old missile. Or these new earthquake generators that Russia made to create natural tsunamis. Water so big that I'm not near the water, but water so big the ocean's gonna cover the land and swallow it up whole, just like Moby Dick, or just like the ocean in Moby Dick when that guy fell overboard. He never bounced back up out of the water. The ocean swallowed him up. He was never seen or heard from again. That's what happened to Moby Dick too, but Ahab, Captain Ahab, Moby Dick bit off his leg, because Ahab was fighting against God. He didn't know God was embodied in Moby Dick. And I didn't tell that story to my granddaughter. I was going to, but it takes a long time to write, and I only have limited pages. And but I had a dream, I was gone from my property, and as I have been on several significant occasions. And when I came back, it was occupied by other men and women. And one guy in particular that I know, I let him stay on my property here on a tent until something happened. I can't remember, but I told his probation officer, I'm gonna let him stay here in his tent in my backyard, but if we have a conflict and I say it's time for you to go, I told his probation officer, when I say it's time for him to go, he packs up his tent and he goes. Not the next day, not in a week, when I say. And he said, okay. Because if you're on probation, you have to tell your probation officer, like, where you live at all times. And so we had a conflict, and I told him no. I told him, you can't stay here. I told you, if I say go, you go. It doesn't matter what the Florida law says. This is my law, and this is what I said. And so I called up the cops, because there is this Florida law, if you stay at somebody's house like 2 days, then if you want to stay, then you have to be evicted through the court, okay? And it costs like $400 to even file. And you got to pay another like $50 or $100 per person to have them evicted. They each got to be notified by a process server. Okay, somebody that they pay to serve somebody, just like Melania Trump, And she's trying to escape going to court at a fight she started with this guy, Mr. Wolf. So she's saying, I was never served. And she's got protection, and you can't hardly serve her. Well, in this case, okay, these were two people. And I'm living on my property, and I told them, I called up the cops, I said, look, man, if this guy don't leave by my order, he's going to be leaving in a body bag. And the cops came over, okay, and somebody had stolen the keys to my truck, so I couldn't find them anywhere, and I wasn't gonna pay $350 for a new set of keys. So I just turned in my place and canceled my insurance, and said, well, that's not the worst things that ever happened to me. I've lost my electricity for 6 months at a time before, a couple times. Like one time I was kicked off my own property, and I told them, turn off electricity, okay? There's people living there squatting, and I'm not living there. I can't go back there. Turn my electricity off, okay? They turned it off, and then one of the people living here called them up and had them turn it back on in their name. And I told them, don't turn my electricity on. It's my house. Nobody can tell you to turn it on except for me. Well, that's what I thought. Well, it ain't the way it worked. They got the electricity turned back on. So when I was able to come back to my own house, then I said, well, I guess she's paying the electricity bill. I'll let her stay. That's worth something. She's paying the bill. Well, she wasn't paying the bill. And so they turned my electricity off again. And I called them up and I said, look, I need my electricity turned back on in my name. And they said, well, you got a $2,500 bill. She was pregnant, okay? Or no, she wasn't pregnant. She had a baby. And so if you have a baby, they like can't turn your electricity off or something like that, So they let it go up to $2,500 before they actually turned it off. And I said, well, that wasn't my bill, and I told you don't turn my electricity back on for nobody. I told you that before I had it disconnected. And they told me, well, I was a benefactor. That I was a benefactor of that electricity. Okay, well, I guess I was, but see, I thought that, she was paying the bill. And so they wanted me to pay $2,500. I didn't have $2,500 to pay them for electricity that wasn't even in my name. And I argued with them for 2 hours, and I got hung up on like a couple of times because I raised my voice and probably swore. Just like I did in that deposition I had to go to for the guy that hit me in the back with a sword. I cussed at them because they were asking me stuff that wasn't even relevant to that. And so that lawyer was doing that to me. So I did the same thing to him. I said, yeah, well, what do you eat for breakfast? You look awfully fat. And I started asking, was your bacon greasy? Like stuff totally irrelevant to what I was being deposed for. Prosecuting attorney wasn't even there, who was my defender, but she told me, because I did not comply with that bullshit. She told me if you cannot cuss in court. And I said, well, is goddamn a cuss word? First she told me that if I cuss again, she was not going to represent me or something like that. And I said, well, it's goddamn a cuss word because I hear it on TV. She hung up on me and I never spoke to her again. But that guy who hit me with a sword, you know, he ended up dying in jail right when he was being booked. And I think it was from fentanyl, because fentanyl, they say, you know, if you drink water after you have it or something like that, it goes into your system more and it can kill you. Well, look, that's another story. But anyway, back to the story. I told him about my electricity. I told him, I said, well, you know what? I'm wearing a jacket right now and I can't live without electricity. And so you want me to pay a bill that I can't pay and it wasn't even in my name, and I told you not to turn my electricity on and you did. So you know what? I'm gonna write all this down on a piece of paper, what you did to me. And I got this big oak tree in my front yard and I got a climbing rope, and I'm gonna wrap that rope around my neck after I climb up in that tree, and I'm gonna pin this note to my jacket, and then I'm gonna drop myself out of that tree. And my neighbors are gonna see me hanging there from that tree with a rope around my neck, and they're gonna call the police, and everybody's gonna be here. In fact, I think I might call the news station first and tell them what I'm gonna do, so they can just come out here, and I'm gonna tell them that I got this note pinned to my jacket. And I'll be hanging there a dead man with this note. I'll be just hanging there, you know, swinging in the wind. But everybody will see that note and everybody's gonna know what you did to me. Duke Energy. To Duke Energy, what you did to me. And after I told that, you know, and this is after being hung up on and trying to talk to different people and all that. I got as high up the chain I could go. And you know what? After I told him that, my electricity was turned back on in 10 minutes after I told him that. Because I can do it remotely. That's that story. But, look, you know, that's not the first thing I heard and learned when I woke up upon reflection, you know. You know, my words will be thus in your mind. And I was thinking, see, of a memory that I had, okay? Because I woke up from a dream and they were grading me. And they were giving me a guy who was like my supervisor in school or something, you know, just showed me the letter I, said they were giving me a letter I. Well, I said, well, I don't know what I is because I only know about A, B, C, D, and F. Are you giving me an F? He said, no, I'm giving you an I. Well, it seems like I was another letter that they added to the grading system. That it wasn't an F, but it wasn't any other letter standing for incomplete. Well, in my dream, I actually really couldn't remember exactly what I stood for. But when I woke up, at the tail end of my dream, you know, I was saying, well, you know what? I don't care about your grading lettering system. I don't even know what I means. It don't mean anything to me anyway. But see, it seemed to me that I had already went through high school. And then I moved somewhere else, but I had already graduated, but I was still like somehow eligible to go to high school. So I was going to high school for a second time. And it was a new, wholly different experience, okay? It was as challenging as the first time I went through. First time I went through, it didn't seem to be that challenging. But it seemed like it got a little bit harder. But I was going through for a second time, and I didn't even need a high school diploma. I already had a high school diploma. I was just, you know, going to get a second high school diploma. Anyway, I think I actually really did this in my real life somehow. I have to really think hard. Because it seems like I really remember going to school and thinking to myself, I've already been here before. All these kids and stuff, I don't even have to be here. I'm just going here because I want to continually learn. That I want to learn more, and I can do it for free in high school. But I already had a diploma. it seems like this is a real memory. Like, okay, like I gotta really think about it. Like, I'm kind of old now, and it's hard for me to remember like everything I went through in the past. But it seems like I did that, really, for real. But I don't know. It's hard for me to knit everything back together in the historic timeline. But see, and that's why I was thinking of the words, because I was thinking I've already been here before. I already did this. And then hearing the echo of somebody that actually did tell me before about this other woman who's living on my property, saying she'll steal everything from you and you won't even know it. But before you know it, it's gonna be all gone. Like that, okay? Anyway, they called her Breezy. Anyway, look. So then I got up, and I don't even know actually what time it is right now. Let me look at my other phone. Sunday. Software update has been updated. My phone has been updated. It's Sunday, March 8th, 3:51 a.m. in the morning. I woke up from that dream, though, and I had to really work hard on reflecting, okay, didn't I really do that? I did that. I really did that. But, and then I thought, these echoes, frozen in time, will remain in my memory forever. Forever in my memory will remain. Or something like that. Frozen in time. And I think those words come from a song maybe Bob Dylan wrote. I've been here 1,000 nights, because I was thinking about Red River Rose, you know. I've been here. Seems like I've been here. I know I've been here 1,000 times before. But the words that came to my mind, you know, were frozen in time. Just like this. Frozen in time, you know what? Behind here. Behind there, right there. That's a picture of Coyote. My son Isaac, okay? He's a lot like, he is a lot like me. Yeah. But it seems to me that I've been kind of splintered off, you know. Like, there's a lot of me and my son Isaac. There's a lot of me and my son Adam. There's a lot of me and my grandson Bryson. My other grandchildren I never had the opportunity to really get to know, because my daughter moved all the way away, all the way to Oregon, and never hardly ever has a phone. Even though I did one time buy her one, she never. And then probably fighting with Will, somebody threw it out in the yard, because eventually they found it in the yard. But that being said, you know, everybody's got their own life to live, you know. It wasn't my pleasure or my opportunity to ever really get to know her kids, because but they're still kids. But look, I built a climbing wall and everything out there. I built a dog den out back. I did a lot of stuff, you know, for my grandchildren, okay, because I wanted to actually be with them and see them. But my dogs inherited that's why I call it the dog den. My dogs inherited it, and now they're too old, and most of them are dead, and I'm probably gonna have to put Sally down. Sally. But I can't get this thing out. All right. That's why I was looking for that suction cup. I thought maybe I could put the suction cup in there and pull it out. But I did spray this with mold release. I can't get it out. And I put it down on top of the table, upside down like a cake, okay? And I took this block of wood. I took this block of wood, okay? It was one piece of wood. Hey, like that, okay? It was one piece. It goes like this. I don't know, it was one piece, okay? It was one piece, okay? Yeah, something like that, okay? Yeah, like that, okay? Well, and I hit it with my hammer. My big hammer. My big framing hammer, one of my big framing hammers. I guess I didn't bring it out here. And I hit it so hard, I cracked that block of wood, plus I flattened it out. Okay, well, the place was okay, I flattened it out. Alright. And I hit it on the back, trying to get it out of the mold, okay? But these leaves, these flowers, I picked all these. Alright. Well, they're frozen in time. They are frozen in time. And what I did on this one is I poured the epoxy resin, you know. I poured a layer about as thick as this pencil right here. All right, on the bottom first, let that dry. Then I put the leaves and the pitcher on top of that. No, yeah, then I put the pitcher down and leaves and flowers down, and then I poured again. Okay, on top of that, and then after I got them all stuck down and in place, and I got the pitcher covered up and down in there all the way to the bottom and flat, then I poured it for a third time. All right, but it didn't happen like this last time. I don't know why. I did it a little different, I guess, but I can't get it out now. It's stuck. It's stuck. All right. It's stuck in the cake pan. I can't get it out. Okay, well, I've been beating on it. And I took this butter knife. Okay, okay? And I stuck it in the side. And I thought, well, maybe I can pry it out. And I tried this thing. Let's stick it down this side, okay? Look, I can get it in there. See? I bent it in a little bit right here. Okay, with a butter knife, right? And then I took this thing. Yeah, I can get it in there, okay? And try to stick that in there, pound it with a hammer. Get it in there, pry it. Once I just get it, the suction released, and it might be a little bit stuck, but I did put mold release on, it should come out. And I'm gonna get it out, but it's frozen in time. Everything about this is frozen in time. And if I just let it have its natural course, okay, it will free up. Because I've spilled epoxy on the floor and just let it dry before, because I'm going to replace the floor anyway. It don't matter to me. It laid down there for about a year, until finally I found that piece of, like, hard, clear plastic piece, or whatever it is, epoxy resin piece, you know. It came up. I didn't even have to pry it up. It just came out. Just like a baby chicken coming out of an egg. Eventually they're gonna come out, okay? The mama might have to help them a little bit, all right? Crack that egg away. My chickens one time, man, they had a lot of eggs, and I didn't know you had to have a rooster or something. I thought chicken eggs just hatched, but no, you gotta have a rooster. I don't know how the rooster makes the eggs actually live and stuff. Well, they never hatched, and so then I found out, no, you have to have a rooster. And I didn't know that. And then when I started taking all them eggs out of there that they kept laying, I thought I was gonna have some chickens. I was just waiting for them. I thought I was gonna have baby chickens. Man, those eggs started exploding, and they stunk bad. When I dropped them like in a little bucket or something, they bam, like a bomb going off, and exploded. They were under high pressure, and it stunk bad. And man, I had to pressure wash that chicken coop and everything. But you know, That's just to say that this will come out. But I want to get it out because I want to see the picture on the back, and I want to see what the finished product looks like out of this thing. I don't want it stuck in here. All right? I don't want it stuck in here. I want to get it out. And at least before I die. Anyway, what good does it do me, man? I put the picture in upside down. I want to see it, okay? I could use this thing. I could use it to write on. This is what I made for myself, okay? So I can sit here in my chair, okay, have something hard that I can write on, you know? Like a writing tablet. I know you can buy them at the store, but I don't want to buy it at the store. I want to make it. Just like I made stuff for my children that'll never even take the pleasure in my climbing wall. None of my kids, children are ever going to come here and climb on my climbing wall. My mom used to sing this song, "Playmate, won't you come out and play with me? And bring your dollies 3, climb up my apple tree. Slide down my something in my rain barrel, slide down my cellar door, and we'll be jolly friends forevermore." She couldn't come out to play. It was a rainy day. With tearful eyes, here is what she say. "Playmate, I can't come out and play with you. My dolly has the flu. Boo hoo 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 hoo." Well, hey, seems like we'll live this life again. It seems to me that, you know, I am living my life again through my own kids, you know. Because I have to correspond with my youngest son, Isaac. You know, he wrote an essay, and he's writing it, and he said some stuff, you know, about God in it, since I have a great deal of experience in that subject matter. I kind of want to enlighten him about some things, but my inner voice tells me, let him go through it himself. I am going to tell him something, though. Because, see, it seems to me that God is living through us, each one, in disparate ways. And seeing God's self in what we are and who we are and becoming. And it doesn't appear that God is ever concerned about redoing the process over and over and over again. Well, I wrote this. This is my mom. I put that in there for my granddaughter, Arden. I'm going to read this to her. I'm going to make another one now. Today is the day. Okay. Bamba Rose. She's my granddaughter. One of my granddaughters. And I do grieve about my other granddaughters because, like, I did know Adelaide. Adelaide was, like, born on somewhere near Father's Day, and my pups were, like, born the same day. Or within, like, this day next to it or something, a lot of them. I mean, and there's a lot of significance in this. Somewhere near Father's Day, too. But it was a long time ago, too. I can hardly remember all the details. It's like I can hardly find any of my tools or my books. They've all been stolen from me and taken. Not all of them, but... And behind my back, I never even knew it. But for this one, this journal entry here, okay, I just had to say that sometimes poetical things, you know, come to me. And they're just spoken. So, anyway, forever frozen in time. Frozen in time. I'm just gonna call this one, you know, frozen in time. All right, bye.